Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out People of Reddit. Story 1. Ex inadvertently provides new marriage assist. This is a story of petty revenge, but it rather landed in my lap instead of me planning it. But it could not have worked out better. In late 2006 I filed for divorce against my ex. He was verbally/emotionally/physically abusive to me. I finally pulled the plug when he took my 2 sons on vacation, and the oldest son, not his child, 7 at the time, came home with a giant bruise on his face where he had been slapped by my ex. I was not able to attend the vacation due to work commitments. My youngest son, 2, was his child, and he put me through a very long and expensive custody battle. He was a wretched, angry, vengeful man, and he did everything in his power to bully me throughout the trial, from spreading lies to hiring private investigators to follow me 24/7. His lawyer was as bad as he was, a bulldog bitch, we will call her Mrs. Z, who also manufactured lies about me and even about my oldest son in the courtroom. I was astonished that a lawyer would stoop so low to win a case. For example, regarding the above-mentioned vacation slap, she submitted photos to the judge of the day after showing the non-bruised side of my son's face only, and posited that I made the entire thing up. Luckily I had photos of my own. I won primary custody. During our separation of 1.5 years leading to the divorce, I started dating a man who is still my husband today. The divorce was finalized in January of 2008. My new husband, we will call him Mark, and I decided we wanted to get married in April 2008, but being that it was not a first wedding for either of us, we opted for a simple ceremony at the courthouse. We invited our parents and a couple of close friends. We all met at the courthouse, and the room was packed with about 20 couples. Everyone was to stand and be married at the same time. As we waited patiently in the crowded courtroom, we hear the judge enter from the far side of the room, out of my line of sight. She says, "Well everyone, it looks like there is a couple here today that I know personally, so I'm going to let them wait until after everyone else says their vows and deal with them afterwards." I look up and see her make her way to the bench. It was my ex's lawyer, Mrs. Z. Evidently she was also moonlighting as a magistrate judge. I had no idea. She looked over at me and Mark with a look like she had smelled something foul, and we burst out laughing. It was all we could do to remain quiet throughout her marrying the rest of the crowd. When the other couples were hitched, they all filed out of the courtroom and she approached Mark and I. She looked me up and down and grimaced, and said, "I am more than willing to get you another judge to perform your ceremony, since we appear to have a conflict of interest." She clearly wanted nothing to do with our happy union. I laughed and said, "Oh no way. This is too good. We're sticking with you." She scowled, and proceeded to read out the marriage rites in a flat, monotone, annoyed tone of voice. We smiled happily and completed our vows kiss. Then we asked her if she would take pictures with us, but she declined, stating that she was still technically held on retainer by my ex. On the way home we texted my ex and asked him to thank his lawyer for a lovely ceremony. He fired her the next day. I assume that was because she lost him the custody case, but I am sure her marrying us didn't help matters. TLDR, went to the courthouse to get married and the judge turned out to be my ex-husband's bitch lawyer. Story 2. No tips, no problem. This was over 20 years ago, but when it comes to mind it still makes me smile. I was 20 and working for one of the largest event staffing agencies in Chicago. They're gone now, but they were number 1 at the time, and we were contracted to work the opening of the new Nordstrom's on Grand Avenue. This was a very big deal. They needed so many bodies they also hired several of our friendly competitors to cover all the bases. I was very interested in becoming a bartender, but it was still a few months before I'd be turning 21. The bosses knew this but were so hard up to meet their obligations they didn't care, and I ended up getting what can aptly be described as a crash course. My training for a position of extraordinary craft, nuance, knowledge, and precision was about 45 minutes long, and suddenly I was the only underage professional bartender in the city. I was stationed at a specialty satellite bar, which is to say me and one other guy, I think his name was Daniel, had a small bar tucked away on one of the upper floors of a huge multi-story shopping complex in women's wear, with only a few ingredients in huge quantities, and responsible for making only 2 cocktails, the Harvey Wallbanger and the Madras. This was a star-studded event for the CRME to LECRME of the city, and with the huge volume speed would be essential. So we pumped out as many drinks as we could for a few hours. Now, no one is required to tip, especially at an event where everything is already paid for. But it's a nice thing that encourages prompt and professional service, even favoritism in some cases. And if you were in attendance at this particular event, you for sure weren't hurting for capital. But literally no one would give us $1. We were sweating, hauling, pumping, smiling all the while, and people weren't even being polite about it, let alone tossing us a quarter for what I could describe as a Herculean effort. It was frustrating. Inevitably, someone who just wanted a drink with no baggage came up and asked for just a vodka on ice, and it was top-shelf product, Grey Goose if I recall. So Daniel poured them a pretty heroic amount. They walked away without a word, not even a thank you for bending the rules at our own peril. I watched Daniel do this and saw the look on his face, and we caught each other's gaze and had one of those moments where we communicated without a word. We nodded at each other and began our petty vengeance. The vodka, as I said, was all paid for, and we had a lot of it on hand with reserves off the floor. So we started pouring doubles, even triples, pretty much exclusively. All bets were off. Want a screwdriver instead? Have a double. Would the lady prefer a simple Cape Cod? Better make it a triple. It's already bought, so who cares? Just want vodka on ice? Have an entire glass, we're here to serve. No one in charge cared if we strayed from the recipe book, but eventually an event captain did approach us to let us know that someone mentioned we were pouring a little heavy, so maybe pull back a bit. We both said, sure thing boss. And went right on getting people completely schmammered. All sense of decorum and gentility evaporated around our bar, and after an hour we had people dancing in clothes and lingerie they didn't pay for, making out with mannequins, just the works. I know for sure someone vomited in the swimwear aisle. We still weren't making any tips, but it finally felt worth the effort. At the end of the event, when we were breaking down our bar, a younger guy we hadn't served, we could tell because he wasn't shit-faced, came up to our bar and said, I used to do events, and it's not easy. I could tell you guys were really working hard, and you deserve this, and tipped us each a $10 bill. He was the greatest capper to a banner evening, and I salute him. The rest of that crowd can pound glass. Story 3. Posted photos of coworker all over my workplace and city. So I had this coworker at a stupid food court job when I was in college. I worked at a burrito place similar to Chipotle, and my manager was going to promote me to supervisor. She asked me to start acting the part, making sure people's portions were correct, etc. Anyway, he was scooping chicken and was piling it on. I told him to make sure he does level scoops so we don't run out of chicken. He lost his shit on me in front of all the customers and asked me if I thought we were feeding kindergartners. I was annoyed, but said nothing. My brother worked at a different restaurant at this same food court, all under the same company, and was already a supervisor, so he had a key to the building. Later that week, in the middle of the night, we printed out hundreds of tiny wallet-sized photos of the coworker from his Facebook page and posted them everywhere at the food court. Inside napkins, dispensers, schedules, on vents and random poles, inside pans hidden away, drawers, I mean everywhere we could find. We also made a missing poster of him and posted them around too. So the workday starts and there are literally hundreds of photos of him everywhere along with the missing posters. The manager tells me he is missing and I act shocked and worried. Somehow they aren't connecting the dots that this is a joke, given that there are also tiny photos of him everywhere. He was scheduled later than me, but we were both closing. When he finally arrived, he was flipping out about the pictures and it all ended up being a big deal. The managers were having meetings with all of us asking for any info and saying how it was a fireable offense. I also snuck away when no one was looking and put a second one on the punch clock. The first one had been thrown out by now, about 15 minutes before we were set to clock out. I got so much satisfaction seeing him rage when we finally went to clock out. He was like, "There's another one, what the fuck?" Obviously my brother and I told no one and never got caught. Over the following weeks we left them around the town and he actually saw one at the barber shop and was so distraught about the whole thing. He never found out the truth. Story 4. Nice guy narcissist ropes people into making a shit talk group behind my back, then rages and deletes his YT channel when I stand up to him. TLDR, narcissist who is a perfect nice guy stereotype ropes people into making a group with him behind my back dedicated to talking shit about me. I find out a year later about this group, chew him out for it and other shit he did and tell him to fuck off. He then rages and deletes his YT channel. So where to start is simple. I'm on a YT community that had a young guy on it who was your perfect nice guy narcissist stereotype. We'll call him Dave. Dave had this history of going around since 2019 and starting drama, attacking anyone who objected to his views. Basically any different views than his, and you were the worst person on the community. Last year it ends up being years since the initial events happened. So I decide to give Dave a chance thinking he's improved since then. As it turns out, big mistake. Fast forward to a few months ago. Through a bunch of stupid tantrums he threw, it emerges last year Dave pulled everyone he could into making a group behind my back dedicated to talking shit about me. Mind you, I did nothing to him, so needless to say I was pissed when I found out about it. I end up chewing him out for this group and some other shit, including some fucked up lies he told, which is a whole nother story, and he's coming at me with all these fake apologies which I wasn't stupid enough to fall for, as I have dealt with people like him in the past and know what they do. The next couple months after that, he starts going crazy. Blowing up everyone and their mother about how he's destroyed countless friendships and whatever, but by this point everyone, including those in the shit talk group who felt terrible for being involved in it, is done with him too and is sticking up for me. Next thing you know, he's going full-blown nice guy. Including tangents about Christianity and how he wishes we had love like him, love bombing basically. Then myself and others get random Cash App money from him as gratitude, unsolicited BTW. After that, he starts sending messages to people's mothers, yes, literally, bullshitting about how we're bullying him, which is bullshit. Besides, he had no room to be talking anyway, as he had backstabbed me with the existence of that shit talk group. Needless to say, I wasn't falling for that either, and after telling him to fuck off once and him sending me a massive word salad in response and then deleting it, I told him to fuck off again. This time also telling him to quit messaging people's mothers among other stuff. The next day, Dave snaps into a rage and deletes his YT channel. Next thing I know, he's posted on one of his alts about how this community has provided me PTSD and how it's a lost cause and to never ask him to come back. LOL, like I ever want you back, Mr. Drama King Narcissist. He's also threatened the authorities on me since this too, which I find hilarious. Welp, sucks to suck, Dave. I've had my revenge, that being you, the trash, taking yourself out, and am enjoying your random money and people sticking by my side. That and also a drama-free community with you gone. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.